Police officers in Northamptonshire are soon to be equipped with a nasal spray which can reverse the effects of drug use. It's called naloxone, and it's part of a pilot project which will, in time, be given to officers in Northampton and Kettering. Certain of them are getting it very soon indeed as part of the trial, which may then see full rollout. Detective Chief Inspector Steve Watkins is from Northamptonshire Police, and he's leading the project. You might have heard him talking on The Breakfast Show first thing yesterday. Tackling the effects of drugs use in Northamptonshire is one of the 4 matters of priority, as they're known, which have been set of the public force by the public. I talked to Steve yesterday at Campbell Square Police Station. He told me how the spray does what it does.
So this is a drug which is administered through the nose, it goes to the brain, and it sits on the receptor that heroin or fentanyl would sit on, which prevents that opiate from having its deleterious effect.
Why are the police involved in this and, say, not paramedics or the medical community?
So paramedics, medical communities, drug workers, they have access to this and similar drugs and more effective medication. Up until now, Northamptonshire Police didn't have access to it. But what we were finding is that officers were frequently first on the scene of someone who may be suffering from a drug overdose, be it on a bus, be it in a stairwell, sometimes literally coming across people who are clearly suffering from what is a medical emergency. If someone's suffering from an opiate overdose, their breathing stops, and so it's really important to get the drug out of their system so that they can come back and start breathing again. But just like CPR, every second counts.
You said frequently officers find this. Just how frequently do you mean? What kind of a drugs problem do we now have on the streets of Northampton and Kettering where this pilot scheme is being trialled?
It's not so much that there's an increase in drug dependency or drug overdose. It's more that what we're seeing now is these synthetic opiates that are coming in, which are mixing with the street heroin that users are used to having. And what that does is that it means that it's very unpredictable for them to be able to inject what they would say is a standard dose. And that puts them at real risk of overdose. And that's what we're seeing a lot more of.
This is a trial that Northamptonshire Police are involved in. What process have you got to go through before the issuing of this particular nasal spray becomes the norm for Northamptonshire Police in the way that Taser was, for instance?
It needs to be approved formally by our clinical governance group. They make sure that the spray is appropriate, that all the legal boxes are ticked, and that it's suitable for carriage by the police. Once that's complete, then we can commence our 12-month pilot. You will use that to get some really useful data around its efficacy, how useful it is. So once the 12-month pilot is complete, if it's successful and we're content with it, then we can roll it out more widely.
And we should make the point that this is a priority cause as far as Northamptonshire Police is concerned. This is something that's been called for by the public.
Drugs harm is a matter of priority for Northamptonshire Police, and this coincides with a week of action that we've been doing around drugs harm. So we've been doing a lot around the pursue aspect, so again, smashing doors through, targeting drug dealers, taking the drug pushers off the streets. We've been doing open ground searches of parks and woodlands to take weapons, guns and other things off the street as well. And we're doing follow-up victims visits to make sure that people who might have their houses taken over by drug dealers has been reinforced. So yes, absolutely, this is very much a response to what the public want. They want drugs off the street, they want to make sure that people aren't getting harmed by drugs, and they want to see us taking positive action.
Action in action against drugs. That's Steve Watkins from Northamptonshire Police. Sergeant Abdul Salik works the streets of Northamptonshire. He's on the beat. So what proportion of his time is taken up dealing with drugs-related issues?
A large amount of our time is spent around drug-related issues. And that could be a variety of things from auto crime, burglaries, overdoses, drug dealing. You know, it is a concentrated area in Northampton where it is quite prevalent, so we do focus a lot of our time on drug issues.
Who decides if you're going to use this nasal spray? What's the chain of events? Do you have to ask permission, or do you just dive in and, frankly, shove a nasal spray up someone's nose?
It's all officers. It will be a voluntary basis, so all officers will choose to carry it, again, subject to clinical governance. We would decide to administer the naloxone spray.
So at that point of incapability by the member of the public, you can and you are empowered to step in and simply administer naloxone on their behalf without any say-so on their doing?
Yes, we can.
Have you actually done this so far yourself?
No, we haven't. We've had a training input, Again, we're waiting for the clinical governance approval before we can carry it, but we are looking forward to carrying it. If it's one life we can save, then that's a success.
That's Sergeant Abdul Salik. Well, Terry Guilfoyle is from the charity Change Grow Live. Round here, that charity is also known as Substance to Solution. He's been training Northamptonshire police officers in the use of the sprays, and he says they really work.
I know in the last 3 months, I know of at least 10 overdoses that have occurred. On 7 of them occasions, naloxone has been used and that person has been brought back to life. It's not rocket science. It's a very simple procedure that can actually mean the difference between life and death.
How fast working, in real terms, is naloxone?
1 dose of naloxone will work for 2 or 3 minutes. If there's no response, you repeat that dose. Once you've administered the whole of the spray, it will last for around 20 minutes. So effectively, you're buying yourself time until the paramedics get there and they can take over.
How big a step forward is this?
For us, this is huge, to get the police involved and to get the police on board. We've been issuing naloxone kits for a number of years to our service users. This last year, I got the role that I'm currently in now, which involves me going out and training external partners. So police was just one of the people that it was a no-brainer. We had to get the police on board. They're often a first responder and they are at the sharp end when it's needed most.
Where it's needed most, he says. Terry Guilfoyle from Substance to Solution, and before him, Sergeant Abdul Salik and Detective Chief Inspector Steve Watkins from Northamptonshire Police. Naloxone, the trial for Northamptonshire Police, starting in Northampton and Kettering, but it's right at its start. We're just at the beginning of the trial process. We'll update the story once the results of that trial are in. One of the priority matters for Northamptonshire Police, as set by us, the public.